Hey, welcome to the Steve Davis Show. Today's special guest is Ira Harge, legendary basketball from UNM and pro basketball player, almost everything, just a legend. And I want to thank you for coming on the Steve Davis Show.
Well, thank you, Steve.
You know, we had Ira Jr. on, and congratulations to him. And I know that's a great feat to see your son win a back-to-back state championships. But we want to talk about Ira Sr. right now, and I've been intrigued about you. For me, one, I want to thank you just how you treated me at UNM when I first came to UNM. It was like I just want to thank you because you were so good to all the young athletes that went to UNM, and was just kind of a mentor, and everybody looked up to you from being a Lobo player.
Well, let me say this: there are three Iras, senior, junior, and a third. Ira's junior son. But when I was a young kid coming up in Detroit, playing against all the old professional players and the college players, being a black kid and having some potential that they saw it, I didn't. And they said to me, Ira, one thing you have to do is if you make it, is help some of the younger guys. So I always tried to, that was kind of every time we played, said make sure you help somebody. So I always tried to help guys, not hurt them or denigrate them.
But and hear me out. I know there was the black and white era of that, but I'm just saying I'm a white guy coming to I mean, not to stereotype it, but I mean it is what it is, and coming to UNM and to see see all the pictures of you and seeing things, and then you walk into the locker. You don't even remember. You walk in the locker room and you introduce yourself, and actually you sit down and would talk to everybody about where about your futures. You would talk with the black guys, you talk with the white guys, but anyway, you just made me feel like I was actually just a friend of yours, and actually like a teammate 10 years removed
later.
Or so.
Well, this is what I was saying. They said reach back and help someone. They didn't distinguish black or white. They said help them, help the young guys. So I played against and with a lot of young guys as a professional, that I would try and tell them and help them detour around the roadblocks. Guys, this was in the 70s. Guys were starting to drink a lot and drugs and things like that, and I tried to steer them away from that. Not only because they were basketball players, or if they played at UNM, or I knew them from wherever. I tried to steer them away from those kinds of things, so that they could fulfill their dreams like I had fulfilled mine.
Well, the other intriguing thing is I really didn't know how you got to Albuquerque. I always like to hear people how they got to Albuquerque, and here, you're from Mississippi, but you lived there only 3 years. But basically you're from Detroit. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was born in Mississippi, a little town called Anguilla. It's Anguilla, which means an eel. I was born there, and if you go to the Google, you'll see, you Google Anguilla, and they'll tell you about the famous people from Anguilla, Mississippi. I never knew I was famous. I never knew that they knew who I was, because I was just a little 3-year-old when my family left there. But I forget where I was going, but anyway, these.
You're getting back to.
Yeah, we moved to Detroit in 1945, and I was born in '41. And my father worked for Allen Industries, which was a part of the auto manufacturing. They manufactured the car seats. So I left Mississippi to get away from the cotton, and my father went to an automobile manufacturer that put the cotton in the seats. So, but that's another story. But anyway, and then I went through high school.
Good high school career?
I was an average. I was a late bloomer. I was a good rebounder and shot blocker, but I had a couple guys that were older, and they played with me. One was Smokey Gaines. I think you played against his teams.
I did, yes.
And he coached at San Diego State. and he was a little older, and then there's a guy, Ed Stewart, who's a little older, and they took all the shots. And they told me, well, you just rebound. And if I'd rebound, I'd get the ball, and I'd look to shoot. This is even offensive. I mean, they were there taking the ball out of my hand. They were the best defenders the other team had. They would take the ball from me, and they'd shoot. And all I had to do was rebound and block shots. But anyway, from there I went to.
But you had actually a good high school career.
Yeah, I was sought after. Bowling Green University, Western Michigan, and I even got a letter from the University of Kentucky, and this was in 1959. But I guess my name kind of fooled them, because this was before they did a lot of scouting and things. Adolph Rupp wrote to my high school coach, and my coach showed me the letter, and he asked the coach if he would pass the letter on, and maybe I'd be interested in coming to Kentucky. And the coach did that. He said, but Ira, I'm going to have to send this send a letter to Mr. Rupp and tell him that you couldn't play down there, because back in 1959 you couldn't play. And he sent a letter to Rupp, and Rupp sent the letter back and says, well, I wish Ira well. He says, but things being as they are, he could not play here, and I couldn't even enter the university back in 1959. So from there I went to Bowling Green, but I was discouraged there, so I left.
So you actually went to Bowling Green?
I went to Bowling Green
so
for
one
semester.
One semester?
I was going to stay a year, but I'll tell you, what happened was we were going to go from Bowling Green, which was 70 or 80 miles from Detroit, and this was in December of '59, and my family was all excited about me coming to play. And we were going to play the University of Detroit. They didn't. So we were in our dormitory was about 50 feet, maybe 50 yards from the gym, and the bus was going to leave from the gym. And anyway, the coach left us. I guess he was trying to teach us a lesson. So they said, be at the bus, be at the gym at, we'll just say 12 o'clock, and we got there at 12:01 or 12:02. And so the bus left us. And after that, I had nothing good to say or think about Bowling Green University.
Well, we're going to come back. We're going to go to the Dream Style Top 10 Plays of the Week. We're going to come back and talk about how you got to Albuquerque. Okay. Sorry, I diverted.
And flags are going to fly here. And wide open, making the catch and standing in the end zone is Dello Davis. Well, what's going to be the call? Is this going to be a touch? And it's returnable. Edwards makes a move and another move to the outside. Uh-oh, look out. He puts on the Jets in a 50-yard.
First base side. Oh, what a play turned in by Jackson. Great play by Jackson.
Dello Davis are in motion. Dello Davis going to get the carry out of motion. And look out, here comes Dello Davis. He's through. Davis all the way.
Got a little bit of breeze out towards right field. That's hitting the gap to right center field. Right fielder coming on. What a great catch turned in by Schober.
There's Wichita, the kick. Here's Bray. A little stutter. Look out. Antonio Bray's got to move to the outside, and it's all wheels from there. He's going to take it.
Runner's going to go.
Oh, here he's going. Watch out
Here
at
comes
home.
the play as the play. Throws in time. Got it.
the day that Parker's pitching.
That's lifted back this way. The catcher,
Rendon.
Rendon, coming back and
What
makes
a
the
catch.
catch. Great catch by Rendon. Up the middle. They're waving him around. It gets by. Here comes a winning run. Connor Langwell scores a winning run off the bat of Garrett Langwell. Clovis is going to win it 3-2. RBI single for Garrett Langwell, Tom.
Right next to him. Bray gets the carry. What a spin move. And look out. He puts on the Jets, and Antonio Bray, one for the highlights.
Nothing completes a trip downtown like a visit to Lindy's Cafe. You won't find a more relaxing restaurant to unwind at. Located on 5th and Central, proud supporters of Proview Networks, Lindy's strives to be a friendly and welcoming place.
Lindy's, a great place to be seen.
Hey, welcome back to the Steve Davis Show. My special guest, Ira Harge Sr., and want to make sure I get the senior in there. He's got a junior, and he's got
a tray.
And a tray. So but you know, the question, and I even asked your son Ira, and the one in the middle, I guess, Ira Jr. Really how, there's always a story behind the story, how, from somebody from Detroit gets to Albuquerque, and it was interesting. So kind of, enlighten me and our viewers of what, how it happened.
I was trying to get to it. I guess I talk a little too much, but after I left Bowling Green, I set out and I played AAU basketball around Detroit. One of the guys said to me, his name was Albert Richmond, or Richardson, I'm not sure, I don't remember now. But he said, Ira, what are you going to do next year?
Now, basically, wasn't AAU? Basically, it was just city games. I mean,
no, they had. They had but they called it AAU. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah, but it was. I played in the city league, and this older guy, Richmond,
which is like an NBA league. I mean, those city leagues in
Detroit
they're stories within themselves, right?
Well, these are a lot of the guys, older guys who couldn't at the time play in the NBA. Would play there in the city league, or they would play with the Globetrotters or the Harlem Clowns. I guess the other ones were team. But anyway, Richmond asked me what was I going to do, and I said, well, I don't know. He said, are you going to go to? He said, you ought to go to school somewhere. I said, well, I don't really have a place. And Bob King was a assistant coach at the University of Iowa with Sharm Sherman, who was the assistant, was the youngest head coach ever at the time. I think he was like 25 years old, 26 years old. And anyway, Sharm Sherman, Richmond said to me, Bob King is coming to town. Will you talk to him? And I said, yeah, but this was in August or September. And I went over, or Bob came to where I was, because I wasn't driving at the time, and he asked me if I'd consider going to the University of Iowa. And I told him, yeah, I would, because I really wanted to play at the University of Michigan and Michigan State, being from Detroit. But I told him, yes, I'd consider it. And he said, well, it's a little late now, because I guess the first semester was starting in 1960. Yeah, 1960. He said, it'd be too late to get you into University of Iowa, but maybe a junior college. And I went to what is now called Southwest Community College, but back then it was Burlington Junior College. And I went there for a semester, for the first part of it, 1960 and 61, and then 62. And after 62, when I was graduating, I was supposed to go to the University of Iowa. but things happen, and we won't go into all of that. But Bob King was at the Final Four, and I don't remember what city it was, but he came through Burlington, Iowa, and stopped me and stopped by and said, "Ira, if you don't go to the University of Iowa, I'd love to have you at the University of New Mexico." And I thought, where in the heck is that?
Is that in the United States?
Yeah. Yeah. Where I thought it was some foreign country, because I'd only been, as a kid, I'd only been out of Detroit when I went to Bowling Green. I went down, which was 90 miles down the road, and here they were talking about 1,300 miles away, and that's the end of the world for me.
So what sold you on? Was it Bob King that sold you? I mean, I guess because it wasn't New Mexico. I mean,
no, because I had never seen. I knew Bob King, and he'd asked me to come out and look around. So
you were one of his first recruits, then?
Yeah. Well, I said yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what he did, but I know what happened with me. Yeah.
It was like when he became head coach, and you were one of his first
guys that come. Yeah, he came to Iowa. Burlington, and there was a guy, Claude Williams, who I played against in the junior college league there, division, and Claude was at, I think, Centerville, and Bob stopped over there, came over here, and went somewhere in Illinois. There was a guy, Ed Edson, that played at one of the junior colleges, I don't remember where, in Illinois, and he got the three of us to come down to Albuquerque that summer, and we played around and hung around. And one of the interesting things.
So what was it like when you flew in? Definitely flew in, and what?
No, I came on a train.
You came on a train. You actually came in a train.
On a train, yes.
Santa Fe train?
No, yeah. Well, it's the old Santa Fe, and it came into Albuquerque. The Bob King was the only person I knew here when I got here, and we were down at the old train station, and I think it was 2nd Street, just where the train would come into. I got off the train, and I had a little suitcase and a foot locker. I didn't know how long I was going to be here, so I figured I'd bring all my stuff. Anyway, he met me. And I remember right across the street from the train station was old Simon's Sporting Goods. I think it was called Simon's.
Right, it was.
Yeah, and we went in, and Cy Simons was his name. And I met him, and I met Danoff. I can't think of his first name.
Hi, Danoff.
Heidi? Hi, yeah. And they introduced me, and then we went to the university. I met a couple of the guys, but one of the things that happened, I always look back in retrospect.
Or was it Mike Danoff? It was Jaime.
Jaime, and Mike.
Mike's his son.
Yeah, Mike's an attorney. He and his sons are also attorneys. But anyway, we went to the university, and we were playing, just playing, going to a regular tour, and he said to me, Bob King that is, said to me, "Ira, you ought to register in this driver's training course." He said, one, you can be able to get your New Mexico driver's license. I had a Michigan driver's license. He said, but you be able to get your driver's license, and you'll get 3 hours credit. I think it was 3 hours. And he said, that'll help you towards your graduation. And being as naive as I was, and I'm not accusing Bob of anything, but he said, let's register you in this class. It's a 2-week class. He said, and after the class, you can go back to Detroit and you can make up your mind. And I didn't realize that by enrolling that it jeopardized my eligibility as far as going to any other place. I wanted to go
so he got you. Bob King had a little trickery there.
Well, not trickery. He was cementing the deal.
Right.
So I enrolled in the class, and here I am.
Well, we're going to come back to that story. We haven't even got to your career or anything, but we'll come back and pick up when you got to UNM.
The Cherry Silver Benefit Home Show, April 7th and 8th, benefiting the UNM Children's Hospital, Popejoy Hall, and Anderson School of Management. See exhibitors feature windows, doors, kitchen, bath, sunroom, stucco. The Cherry Silver Benefit Home Show at Dreamstyle Arena, The Pit.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili, breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at Proview Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Hey, welcome back to Steve Davis Show. We got Ira Harge Sr. here, former Lobo player, former legend, and I got to throw these out here. You know, New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame and also UNM Hall of Honor. So those are 2 great honors.
Yes, they are, Steve, and I'm proud, very proud of myself, and I'm proud of the honors. But I want to tell you one thing that I always forget is that, and not bragging on myself, but I was the first one in my family ever to go to college. And now we have, 4 doctors and 3 PhDs in the family now. My sisters.
So you married well, is what you're saying?
Well, not my kids. My kids both all have master's degrees, but I mean my nephews and nieces.
Right.
You know, I was the one to, and they saw they.
So education's important.
They figured that if Ira can do it, and they called me Hot Rod. They said if Hot Rod could do it, I can do it. You know, all my nephews and nieces. So there are several MDs and a couple PhDs in the family, and I was proud of them. And I always went back and told them, you know, that they went on and became MDs and PhDs.
Well, that's awesome. Hey, so back to UNM. Johnson Gym was just built, and it was state of the art. It was a state of the art at that time. Was that you know, for a basketball player coming to see and Bob King and his enthusiasm and bringing players across the country in had to be a highlight of your life?
Well, it was. I had seen bigger stadiums, but this was, you know, it was just 5 years old, 6 years old when I got here, and it seated 8,500 people, and that was a big deal.
And at that time, it was filled.
Yeah, it was filled. No, not when I first got here. Right. The first time I played at Johnson Gym, Southeast Oklahoma State, I can't remember what school it was, but there was like 2,500 people. Then the next time was 35, 45, 55. Then shortly after that, the season of 63, 64, it was sold out. And I don't know if they were doing season tickets then, but I mean, there was waiting lines, and people waited.
You know, it was, and I learned about that. That's the time I started. I started learning. Actually started.
Were you born in '62?
Yeah, I was just a young kid. I was a basketball deal, and UNM was part of the whole thing. So basically, you know, we. Osmosis, that's kind of where I started to learn about you and a lot about Bob King and the conference. But back to the facilities was state of the art at the time. Yeah, but what was your thinking? A little cultural shock when you came to Albuquerque?
Well, as I mentioned to you earlier, the only thing I knew about New Mexico, about Mexico, being a kid from the ghettos out of Detroit, was a Cisco Kid and Pancho and Pancho Villa, and we'd had a little history on the Mexican-American War. U.S. and Mexican War with Texas territory and the history. That's the only thing I ever knew about it, and I expected to come and see the senoritas with the big flared dresses like the dancers and the poncho and Cisco with the big sombreros. And my mother and father thought I was going out of the country. They said, "What are you going way down there for?" Like, as I said, it was 1,300 miles away, and I'd never been outside the city limits of Detroit prior to going to Bowling Green.
Well, in a way, you're the beginning of Bob King, the legend that he built up with, you know, what he's done with UNM and building the pit, the Bob King Court, but it's really, your career is astounding. I mean, I look at some of these stats. I mean, 62 to 63, you're 21 points. 13 rebounds, 63, 64, 16 points, and 10 rebounds. But the biggest thing is you got to go back east and play in the NIT, which was a big tournament, as big as the NCAA at that time, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it was. As a matter of fact, a lot of teams preferred to go into the NIT over the NCAA. And well, the way we got there, I'll take a moment. The way we got there is we were co-champions of the WAC, which is Western Athletic. I don't know if it was.
I was Western Athletic too.
Okay, and we were co-champions with Arizona, and we voted to whether we wanted to go to the NCAA versus the WAC, and Bob kind of steered us to the Coach King kind of steered us to the NIT. And we went up there and shocked a lot of people, including ourselves.
I know. Who did y'all play in the finals?
We played Bradley. They beat us.
That's right.
They beat us, but we always thought that we got hometown in New York. We didn't. During the game, I think I played the first 8 minutes. Then I played. Then I played a couple minutes in the second half, and by the time we got to 5 minutes, I had fouled out, and so we always would like to have played them again, Bradley.
Then from there, you went on to a 13-year MBA, ABA, and Europe.
Europe.
Professional.
Yeah, I was drafted 2 times. Once by Detroit in 1963, and that was when you had the opportunity, not like these guys now where they play a freshman year and they go, but I wanted to graduate from college. So I declined. I didn't go to Detroit. And then the second time was by Philadelphia, and I had graduated, so I went to Philadelphia and played. And I played there for a while, and then they found this guy named Wilt Chamberlain, and they thought he was a better center.
I thought he was a better player than you?
Than I was. I disagreed, but I wasn't calling the shots. And so one of the guys, I was at one of the Philly games, and he said, "Ira, what are you going to do now that you're not with Philadelphia?" And I said, "Well, I don't go get a job." And he said, "Well, what about this?" And he said, "There's a guy, Dr. Rodriguez in New York. He's looking for some players to go to Spain." And that's how I went to Spain for 2 years.
Well, Ira, we're gonna have to cut you short.
No, that's all right.
We're gonna have to have you back on the Steve Davis Show and finish up our conversation. But hey, I want to thank you, and also thank you for being a role model to all the UNM players that come into the University of New Mexico.
Well, thank you, Steve, for the opportunity to reminisce and go back over some of all these things that I'd forgotten about.
Well, hey, thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you.